All right, guys, it is the weekend and we did not do any racing. Oh, I don't have withdrawals yet. I might after next weekend, but I'm going to get my fix the weekend after that when we go to ShadySide for that 75,000 win race. So what I've been going through the last few days, since I last checked in, get this adjusted right, is we got the big block back on the stand. It's not in trouble. Not that kind of stand, you know. We're not in court. We're just checking some stuff out so we can get it ready. Boop, boop, boop. There's no motor in the car at this moment. That's not a bad thing though. That's okay. So in one of the last videos I talked about we were going to take the next couple weekends off to prepare for the $75,000 to win Ronnie Buff Memorial ShadySide race in Shelby, North Carolina. That's coming up this month in May, starting May 22nd, running to like the 25th. It's gonna be a lot of days of racing. I think there's testing Thursday. I know for a fact there's testing Friday because we'll be there for that. We get in our shake on Saturday before we go into first round eliminations, and then Sunday we finish running the event. For those people that are not on the invitational list, because this was a 64 car invitation only shootout, might be able to still get in. If you want to get in, reach out to Corey Stanford. I'm sure his inbox has plenty of space right now to get more racers in. I know it doesn't, it's full. But there is Little Gangsters. So Michael Poland and Jimmy Dale Racing are going to be out there running Little Gangsters 3 days in a row. They've got money on top every day. Big money to win out there for the 530 index guys. And we got some big money we're trying to go after in small tire. So this race is, well, actually last year, this was not as fast as we thought it was going to be. It ended up being a few tenths slower. The air was bad. The track was greasy. It was hard to get down early. Tire control was a pain in the butt. This event is not technically a no prep. This is actually going to be like a bracket style prep. So there's going to be a little bit of glue down. And for us no prep racers that get used to no glue, no stick like that, it's can overwad the tire. It can be a little difficult to manage a car on it. So that didn't prove just true for us though. That proved true for a lot of racers. And a lot of racers had to rely on extreme horsepower, high mile per hour, fast back splits to get the job done. And that did pay off for a lot of people. And last year's winner was Bill Lutz. And he came out there with a whole new build in what they call the Bumblebee, I think, or Super Bee. It's a Transformers color schemed, you know, yellow, black stripe, 15 Camaro with a big old blower sticking out the top of it. Pretty gnarly ride. And I saw on the socials that they are starting on it this week to put that car from a roller to a racer. So they've got a lot of work cut out for them. We got a lot of work cut out for us. We have, we got the big block to put back in. So we made some changes on that. We're going to, what do we do? On this motor, so far we've been running on this motor race gas with the CAS system. And yes, the CAS system will be on the car for this event. And I'll get to why here in a little bit later. So the CAS system, a lot of questions, a lot of information, a lot of technology out there, a lot of things that have not been tested yet. So we're going to test one of those things at this race because why not? Great big, huge payout race, lots on the line. Let's try something different. That's what I do. All right, so what we're going to do differently is we're going to put water in the motor. That way, when we race some of these other competitors, usually takes us from the time we start our burnout to staging to drop into trans brake about 2 to 2.5 minutes. Alex from up at I-29 actually timed that for us. He's got a pretty badass all-wheel drive Honda. And he was keeping track of how, if the faster we did a burnout and stage, the faster we went on the run. Don't think that was the reason, but it was a good observation. But it gave us a really good timeline to kind of work off of, like, hey, this is how long this thing's running. So about 2.5 minutes. So we're gonna flow water through the block because the heads are solid. So we're actually gonna flow water up through these 1/4-inch MPT holes in the side of the block, through the water jackets, and then the head gasket's solid, the deck surface is solid on the heads because there's no water jacket cast in these heads, and then that water will flow up, push forward, come out the front, and then go through our little Honda radiator we have, and that's got to be better than nothing. You know, that's got to be better than just air in there, you know. Should be, right? But we've also put the turbo camshaft in this, and that's the big change for the motor this time. So we did our turbo cam, and the thought behind that is less overlap, should make more cylinder pressure, should be able to effectively use the CFM we're making at that time to maybe make some more power. If anything, should idle easier, you know. It'll pull a little more manifold vacuum. It'll be a little easier to fire up, put around the pits, that kind of thing. You know, we'll see what happens. You know, maybe I'll drive this thing back. ShadySide's pretty freaking hilly, so if I could drive it back, that'd be kind of nice. That way I don't have to rely on the old golf cart to push us up and down the hills, because the hills out there are pretty wild from the return road back. So we got our Neal Chance converter. We got to pull it apart, and we're going to put new clutches in it and a lockup. We're going to change stators in that guy. I haven't done clutches in a minute. I'll show you these clutches. These are pretty cool. We're going to throw some new bolts in the cover because we pop it apart so frequently. This is our clutch pack that goes in this guy. Six frictions. This is a 6-disc lockup. All you guys out there are triple disc lockups. You got about half what I got. Although your clutch discs are probably larger in surface area, but I have a lot more applied pressure with this captured clutch system. So we didn't get to use a lockup a whole lot with the Pro Charger, because when you lock up with the Pro Charger, you bring the RPM down. I'm gonna go to my whiteboard over here, AKA the refrigerator. And in the refrigerator is water. But on the refrigerator is gonna be an RPM line. So, you know, you do your run. We got 3-speed. And let's say we got 8,000 up here. And let's say we're locked. Let's say we lock about right here. We lock right here in first gear. Hypothetically, we don't, but we have, but we're not going to this time. And then you shift, and RPM slow down to 6,500. Well, in a turbo application, you would see additional load, torque would come up, and it'd pull through it pretty well, okay, but it's not gonna have quite the same amount of power. With Pro Charger, you know, let's say you run 45 pounds of boost, you shift, that might be 28 pounds of boost at this point, and then climb back up, and then back down, and then so your G meter, you know, you'd start off woo, then it might go boom, and then boom. This kind of catches up. With the CAS system, when we shift, if we're locked up like that, what we've seen is, as long as we're maintaining regulator flow position through our control strategy, The horsepower output will be the same. The torque will go up tremendously. And the manifold pressure will go up because we're gonna have less RPM, but we're gonna have the same CFM. So that means, you know, we're gonna have more restriction in the motor because the motor's not spinning as fast and we're flowing more air. So anytime we've locked it up on the CAS system and we've got traction, that's a big thing, that's a big key to this. When we have traction still and we lock it up and we go through a gear change, that G meter, she climbs. She climbs out real nice. So we really got to test this well with the LS last weekend at I-29. And the sooner we brought in the lockup, I mean, we could bring that thing in, we could rev the motor up to 8,000 in high gear, shift it, and lock it up, bring it down to 5,800 RPMs. And every like couple hundred RPMs we were able to bring it back. We started like bringing it down to like 60, 68 and 64 and, you know, 6,000 back and forth. And every time we brought it in sooner, more and more average G would increase for that back half of the run. Kind of supports this theory. Pretty neat stuff. But we also were running our loosest stator package on the LS. You know, loose stators typically will get you through rougher surfaces easier. Oh, got the double tap on the bug zapper over there. The looser stator will typically get you through rougher surfaces easier at the expense of, you know, less efficiency down track. You know, that's where the easy button of the lockup comes in. Just off we go. Well, now we've got all these runs on this lockup disc from the Pro Charger setup. So I think it's probably been about 75, 80 runs since I rebuilt the lockup disc or replaced them. You end up building in excess clearance. You end up getting a little bit more consistency in your apply time, and the apply time takes longer and longer. So big race, got some glue down, real back half strong. We're gonna lock this thing down much, much earlier in the run. I might lock it in first. We'll see. We're gonna get probably 5 or 6 test licks at it. So we'll be able to play around with some stuff, see what we can do, and see how it's gonna react. So I know that lots of comments have been made about needing a third bottle. And you're right and you're wrong in some ways. There are a lot of races and situations where if we run the tighter stator package, we lower average RPM, we switch camshafts here, and if it improves motor efficiency and as far as air usage goes, and can make similar power output at a lower CFM, then we will be able to prolong our air. But just in case, we are putting in a third, slightly smaller bottle. This bottle is about 25% smaller than my other ones. It's just longer, but it's thinner. Funny line comes in my head. Starts with needle. And there's a D word after that. Anyways, kind of represents that a little bit. And this is going to give us a third entry port on our regulator. So we're going to add one more port to the reg right here. So we'll have a third bottle feeding the air chamber on the regulator. And that is going to help several things. So we were getting into situations where with the loose converter on the big block, you know, we're leaving and we have a lot of high sustained RPM. So we have a lot of air usage. Loose stator wastes efficiency, but the trade-off is you can go over rough surfaces easier. You know, like yellow belly. This was a strategy we're using at yellow belly. And you can get to a point where you want additional CFM flow, but you're now getting a little low on capacity and it's hard to bring it up more. So we're gonna add a third bottle to push the limits of that and to give me more air to pretty much waste. That's really what I'm doing. I'm wasting a lot of it, you know, in different ways. And my fix for that is to add that bottle. So bottle looks massive, but it's carbon fiber. That bottle only weighs like 30 pounds. So for pretty much one of my lead pucks that we normally carry on the car anyways, you know, usually we got between 3 to, 8 of them in the back of the car, depends on what tree side race we're at. You know, we're getting to trade pretty much one of those pucks and a bolt for a bottle of air that'll give us more capacity, more room to play. And then we might be able to see what this regulator can actually flow at full tilt boogie, because we have not opened it up all the way with even the 2-bottle setup. So being a small tire car, you know, we're not able to apply a ton of power early. You know, we have to kind of bring it in a little bit. You know, we can't go out there and expect to go 1.0 60 foot, you know, like them big tire wheelie bar cars do, or sub 1.0. We have to wait. We have to be patient. You know, be patient about a second and a half, and then we can get after it like they can. I'm anxious to see what this is going to do. I've got some numbers rattling around in my head on what I think it's going to do. And I already know what it does on 2 bottles with about 65% flow. Keep that in mind. We're only using about 65%, 70% of the power that or 65 to 70% of the total flow capacity that we had on 2 bottles. We were just dragging it out for a long time. So we were got a lot on the table still. And this stuff's already moving pretty fast. So I am excited. I am pumped. I do believe we will go faster at ShadySide by a fair margin than what we went last year. I think that we will probably go a 1/10 and a half faster. And that's not just because we switched power adders. That's because we have learned more about the car since May of last year to like November, December last year. We've learned more about what the car is liking, what it wants, and everything we've seen since we switched to the cast system has yielded extremely good results. So that's exciting. No update on the trailer as far as compressor or anything like that goes, because there's nothing to really work on right now. There's some stuff I want to do to it, but I don't have to do right now. It's like I want to build a enclosure that closes off when we're in travel. So as we go through springtime and summertime and we hit these, you know, thunderstorms and, you know, whatever else weather we find, or, you know, what we get overnight when we're out racing out of town, I want some kind of protection on our compressor setup out there. And it'll make it a little harder for somebody to kind of walk by and take parts off of it or something silly. So I do want to do that. I don't know when I'm going to do that. That needs to be done. I do plan on, we're actually going to change the front nose on the car. I'm not going to put a Camaro nose on it. That's not what I mean by that. So this nose cone, everybody loves it. You know, everybody loves to hate on it. It's seen a lot of stuff. You know, we actually lost this whole corner, and Megan actually went in and laid a ton of the fiberglass back in it just to make it solid again. I mean, this was gone. Like, it was like a ton of it was gone. A ton of it was missing. I want to say probably 40% of what was over here was gone. Like, this is all new. Big chunk of this is new. We had a big area here that was missing. We shattered a lot of this side pretty bad in a wreck. And yeah, we worked with what we had, and we got it back to where you can recognize it. You can tell, It's a Firebird still, you know, but it's not as pretty as it could be. So I do have new nose cone, new hood. I'm gonna get the new nose cone on. I wanna do that for ShadySide. And we're probably gonna reuse the hood, and I'll explain why. So this thing obviously always looks like it's wheels up in the air, or the nose is extremely high all the time, because it is. Can't find a tape measure right now, so we're gonna use my fingers. Fingers about 9.5 inches tip to tip. So we got about 11 inches that this nose cone is off the ground. Minimum spec is 3. So if you ever noticed on my beam tripper that we put on the front, and why we made a spring-loaded one, that's why. Because that's already 11 inches off the ground before we even launch, before we even transfer weight, before the nose even comes up. It's already up. I mean, it's not gonna touch the beam. It's not gonna get there. And with it being up, it's also not using air going across the top of the car to push the front of the car back down. So, new nose cone, new mounting, much, much lower front end profile, if at all possible. I'm gonna go as low as I can. But my struts, you know, back in the day when all I did was really crappy surfaces and we wanted to travel, we put a 7.5 inch stroke strut in here. And the issue with that is it's a very long body. Boop. So you end up with a long body package, you know, a little bit of shaft showing, not a ton. Usually this car is about an inch lower than this, but we got the motor out of it. And then we have our adjusting cup, which adds more height to the top of it. Well, unfortunately, this is why I'm gonna reuse this hood. This hood has obviously seen some stuff. These are all repairs. All those light areas is all repair. This whole lower corner, repair. This thing has been patched together multiple times. So it's not gonna hurt my feelings too much if we trim the hood in order to go back on the car, so we're not running hoodless, but we'll have the new lower nose cone, new lower nose cone. And then we'll have, we'll probably have some of this rod or upper strut mount sticking out of the hood. I'm gonna try something. If it works, great. You know, if it helps out and we see what I want to see on the shock sensors and the laser data on the front, especially on the big end, we're really looking for the car to push itself back to earth with air force by, you know, like 2 seconds in the run. That's what I'm looking for. You know, we run these fast tracks. We're going to take out some more height in here. I'm gonna come in here and machine out some stuff and try to get a little lower up here. See what I can do. Maybe remove like this lock collar. I mean, that's almost 3/8 of an inch. I can take that guy out and move the adjusting cup up higher and do something. So there's a couple things I can do. I'm gonna do that to kind of help lower the crank center line some more on the car, or allow it to go lower without hitting the bump stops to upset the car. Yeah, we're gonna try some things. I'm gonna do some stuff up there. I wanna get the nose cone down in the weeds by the time we get to the finish line. And that's going to help it to mile per hour even better, and a little more top end stability. I also want to build something else. I'm not talking car. I want to build something else. If you look back on our TikTok channel, Miss Casey Maxx Firebird, you'll see that we used to have a CO2 actuated beam tripper. And we used a little ram like this guy. And this guy's kind of hard to find. So when I wrecked the car a few years ago, this got destroyed, and it took me a while to find it again. What's cool about this guy is it weighs nothing, and it's got a really light spring in it. So it pulls itself back together. So you just got to put air on it in one spot, and it shoots it out, and then it'll self-return. So we had this guy tucked up behind the nose cone, and it didn't make the car longer. It just made it to where we could trip the beam about 22 inches sooner. Well, we're going to do it a little differently this time, and it's going to be visible, and we're going to stay at the NHRA technical rule book length, even though this race we're going to doesn't really have any rules like that. So maybe I'll make two. Maybe I'll make one to kind of push the limits, and then one that's NHRA legal. But based on shock, length, vehicle speed, throttle position will determine on if this is out or not to trip the finish line beam. It's not going to be just this. It'll move and actuate some other kind of panel or something like that. It's going to do something. But I want to build that too. So good thing I got the rest of today. I've got some time here and there during this week, and I got most of next weekend. So we can try to get everything ready to rock. Big block looks ready to battle. We resealed the head gaskets on it so we wouldn't have any water seepage issues. Got that camshaft change done in there. Ryan Mueller and I went back and forth multiple times on what we should do on camshaft with this. And he's like, I think this turbo cam you've already got will be very, very close to optimizing what we need to do. Let's try it. Let's see what it does. That'll give us a huge step forward in determining what this stuff's gonna like. I'm pretty excited. We're gonna push the boundaries. We're gonna push some envelopes. We're gonna see what it'll do. I'm excited to see what it's gonna do. We also gotta change the rear gear in the car. I got a 389 gear in it, and I think based on the mile per hour we're gonna be at with the lockup on, we're gonna have a lot of RPM, like 85, 8,600 RPMs. So working on, I've got a 370 gear here too. But I'm trying to get another center section put together so that I can take both gear sets with me. And it's not very easy for us to change a ring and pinion. Like, I don't want to take everything for us to do a ring and pinion in the pits. But if I can have the pumpkins ready and I can just swap center sections, we'll do that. Because I am nervous if we go to a 370 gear to bring down our RPM in high, that it's going to hurt the 60 foot. Overall, our ET won't be any better. I am nervous of that. So I want both options. This is what happens when you have too much time to think. This is what happens when you have too much time to sit at an event between rounds and you get test passes. You start trying to make things better, and sometimes it works out and sometimes it bites you in the butt. And then sometimes you inadvertently create problems that wouldn't have been there if you just left it alone, you fool. So anyways, I got some other stuff I'm working on the car too. Stuff that's probably won't be that visible because it's going to be underneath. But maybe in another video we'll talk about that. Maybe I won't. Maybe we'll leave a little mystery. I may put a lot out there in the world, but I've always got something else going on. I've always got other things happening. I've always got other things I'm doing, other things I'm testing, other things I'm trying. But we'll see. We'll see if they get seen or not. We'll see if I talk about it. We'll just have to see. All right. See you later.
All right, hold on. Do our outro, okay? Okay, now.
Please subscribe to the channel.
But we really want you guys to also go over to Stefco Racing.
Yeah.
Tell them. Say.
Yeah, so we gotta go over to Stefco Racing.
And hit subscribe for them.
And subscribe for them.
We're trying to get them 1,000 subscribers by the end of the week, right?
Right.
Right. So can we do it?
Yeah.
All right. Is that all you want to say?
See you later, folks.